we'll start, Liz, since you're closest to me, we'll start with you. Can you tell us, and everyone will do this, we'll kind of go down the line, in your own words, what you do and how you integrate AI and or technology into the work that you do?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Miller-Gershfeld, and in a very recent past life, I was an executive art producer at Energy BBDO, and I was there for a very long time, like more than 2 decades. So I have a lot of legacy experience. I left my role and sort of went into the deep odyssey of learning tools and workflows and learning everything I could about AI and starting to interrogate the tools and pressure test the tools to make things. And really, I make things that I like to make. I make videos, I make stills, and I also build tools. So I've sort of gotten into what is being referred to as the non-coding coding workflows, a little bit of what Ross was talking about with bringing Java and many other languages, leaning on the large language models to create these tools and to bring them into the workflows. Professionally, most recently, because this is really a new normal, I have been helping production companies to understand how to incorporate AI into legacy workflows, and then doing what's being referred to, but actually in some circles is an outdated term already, as prompt engineering. So writing the prompts, using tools video tools, still generator tools, and others. So that's kind of the top line. Yeah.
Beth, would you like here to take the...
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hi, I'm Beth Huerta. I have been working in the photography industry for the last, for many, many years. We'll leave it there. And I've held many roles. I've been a photo assistant, photo editor, an agent, studio manager. I've worked with incredible photographers, Howard Schatz, Theo Westenberger. And honestly, how I came into AI was Severio, who's here this evening, generated an image and posted on Facebook, and I saw it, and I mean, that was it. I had to know how he made it, why he made it, what was it, what's going on, what's happening. So when you need to know everything quickly, you call Liz. And that's what I did. After that, I started experimenting with the tools, and my justification was, I'm an agent for the beautiful, inspiring Candace Gelman, who's here this evening. I've been with her for 11 incredible years, and I kept saying, you know what, I've got to wrap my head around this because it's kind of coming for us, and I want to be able to explain to the photographers what they're up against, more or less. Also, I'm a professor at Drexel University, and head of the program had already asked me if I would teach the AI course down the road. And I told him, oh boy, okay, so I really need to quickly wrap my head around this. And I did, and I got hooked. And now I want more magic. I want more. I want every tool that can possibly exist that's going to assist with storytelling, because I want the stories told so much. I'm a fanatic for movies and anything technology. I'm a nerd. I'm happy. So that's how I got into it, and I use it every day, like a drug. Every day.
Todd, anything to follow up on drugs? No.
I was going to say that's pretty tough, hard to follow up, but I agree. We met earlier. I'm Todd. I got started in the film business in the mid '80s, and I'm sort of the technology guy, right? You know, my responsibility is to look at technologies and build products around them, efficiencies and things like that. You know, hey, if we can get this to talk to that through some custom software, you know, we can cut our budget in half. or we can do things faster or better. Here at Resolution, obviously, we spent a lot of time on LED technology, like this beautiful LED behind us, and virtual production in terms of really building that path, since we were really early on. I always say this stuff is really great. We're just 10 years too early. As you know, with technology, timing is everything. And so when it comes to AI, at a studio, we use AI in a lot of different aspects. There's the business side of it, of using it instead of doing research, and on the art side, we're always doing style frames if we're pitching on a job. I think a lot of people got into image creation, doing style boards and things like that. And also, on the Unreal Engine side of building a 3D environment takes time, and time is money, and time is the one thing that no amount of money can get you back, right? So obviously, efficiencies really pay off, and so looking at how can AI take something that used to take us a week, maybe do it in a day. Or, if a client has a request of it'd be great if we just did this, to be able to 5 minutes later give them sort of something that can inspire a director to take the creative in a new direction. So, I'm just sort of that guy, always kind of looking for what's the next big thing.
Cool. Hey, Dahlia.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dahlia Saper. I founded Saper Law 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I was 25. So I had to find an area of law that was emerging, because that was going to be my competitive edge. So pretty quickly, it was all about social media and explaining what social media was and the legal implications of social media. And then from that, we had issues relating to the RIA and copyright lawsuits involving Napster. And then it was the BitTorrent porn cases. And then it was revenge porn. And then it was, every so often I get, catfishing. I took a case to the Illinois Supreme Court involving catfishing. So now the buzzword is AI, and we're learning about AI. And so the practice has grown alongside creatives, technically minded business owners, and the firm motto is that we are cool by association. Because after looking at all this, I'm like, this seems a lot more fun than writing the legal contract that we were looking at. But it is fun, and as far as legal issues, I will happily try to answer issues related to intellectual property, the ownership of this output, the legal liabilities associated with using AI, and also as a business owner and as a firm, how are we using AI? And there are a big part of my day now, and Brandon and Marie from my office are here too, is actually explaining why the AI cases that the client has found when they were playing lawyer at 11 o'clock at night was 72% right. That case that looks amazing is actually not a real case. So AI hallucinations, and in the legal world, we talk about issues related to, lawyers getting sanctioned for submitting briefs that cite to cases that aren't really cases. So that is a little bit about our practice and the type of work I do as an, AI lawyer. We'll call that, we're AI lawyers.
Awesome. I'm not sure how I follow revenge porn and catfishing, but I'll do my best. Hi guys, for those that don't know me, I go by Toby Shinobi. I actually used to be a lawyer, not quite to the degree. I decided to give up a regular paycheck for freelance photography paycheck, which I'm sure you can imagine my parents were very proud about. I decided to pursue that, managed to get on some people's radars, was scouted, brought over to work in advertising. So I worked in advertising for about 4.5 years, met some cool people I can see in the audience. I can see you. Thank you for coming out. And after that, I then moved to working for TikTok, which again, I'm sure you can imagine has been very safe and secure recently. So there I'm a creative strategist, global creative strategist, where I basically help people market their brand. So if they have a product or service that they want to market on TikTok, I help them make that just a little bit better. Outside of that, I'm a fine artist, lens-based artist. So I try to blur the lines between the surreal and the real. I like to find balance in all that I do. And one of the conversations I'm hoping that we get into today is when do we use AI and when do we not use AI? I think that's something that a conversation that's not being had often enough. And I'll stop rambling, but say that one of my recent proudest moments is being able to teach my mom how to use AI. I think it's very important that we teach our friends and families who may be a little bit averse or a little bit ignorant to the benefits and the detriments of AI. And so that's one of the things I'm really keen to kind of discuss. But again, Ross, thank you for having us.
For those of you who, you saw my speech a little earlier, but I'm a photographer and director and have been for many years now, actually. But I started as a painter in college and then switched to photography because I've always been very interested in getting the ideas that are in my head out much faster, right? And so this is a very interesting time for all of us. But I first was introduced to virtual production many years ago, in 2019, when I stepped on the test stage for The Mandalorian. And I've been building community here to kind of support that network, the Chicago Virtual Production Group. I've stepped back from a little bit, but I'm starting to kind of activate that and hopefully make some cool things for clients using technology. So that's my kind of history. That's why I'm up here. That's why I have a role here. So I'm excited to kick this thing off. Do we want to start with any questions, or does anyone have any questions? I'm sure you've been waiting patiently.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
And it's more of a legal question.
There we go. We've been waiting for months.
How does the European Union, their laws, how do they differ from here in the States?
Well, all of these cases are involving existing laws, right? So to the extent we're talking about a copyright case versus a defamation case versus a privacy case, the jurisdiction is applying and assessing whether the AI platform has violated those laws. So the answer is, a defamation case brought because the AI, who is Dahlia Saper, she's a famous, race car driver.
Yeah.
That's not defamatory, obviously. But
yeah.
That standard of whether it's prosecutable or actionable will differ. So the short answer is, lawyers always say you would know, it depends. I know that someone asked about a Denmark case that's being passed. We're trying to expand the definition of copyright to include your persona, whereas in the United States, we typically protect your likeness, NIL, which is a term that we all now know because of the sports world. That's typically a state law. So the short answer is it depends on the law in the state or country that is being asserted.
All right.
I'm actually really glad that you brought up law because there's been some recent developments with Grok. I don't know if you saw. They're allowing you to do these deep fakes, which are a little bit spicier than you would expect. I'm using spicy being super diplomatic, but they're
a good word.
They're very not safe for work, for want of a better word. And I just don't think the law is able to keep up. Advancing every day, something's happening new in AI, and I just don't.
That's actually an area of legislation that is being passed, right? So the copyright question is mushy, but the use of AI in a way that's exploitative or depicts someone in a non-consensual sexual position is being addressed both federally and by various states who are amending their laws to prevent the use of someone else's likeness for a commercial purpose in a deep fake, or like Scarlett Johansson filed a lawsuit because they were using her to promote things. So that's another area that I think you have to, and that contract you had up had a whole, performer understands that it's going to be used in this way for this purpose in this AI production.
I think the challenge though is interesting because of the way Grok's done it, right? You're going to have someone like a Taylor Swift or Tom Cruise, and their likeness, it's going to be very clear who that person is, and they have the resources to kind of enforce something against that. But if you're just like a regular, maybe even OnlyFans model or just a regular girl, and someone takes your image, and you have to be very careful about what you're putting out on the internet now. I mean, the cat's probably out of the bag already, but it's going to be interesting to see how Grok deals with this, because I just think it's way too open for abuse.
There's also problems with some censorship things. Don't ask me why, but I was trying to make a bowl of spaghetti with eyeballs the other day, and GPT wouldn't do it. It was like that violates our terms of things. So when you hear people say things like, oh, you can make anything with AI, it's so easy. You can't make anything with AI. So there's definitely some limitations and other things that are at play too, which kind of make it pretty interesting.
I'm more curious if it was offended at the eyeballs or the spaghetti.
It would make the spaghetti, but it would not make the eyeballs with the spaghetti. And then it would make eyeballs, but it would make them together. And then I said, no, it's okay. You can do this. And I said, oh, sure. Would you like them as cartoons? Would you like them as, very realistic and creepy? Or would you like them as tiny and anime? Which I don't know how you add tiny anime eyes to spaghetti, but it asked.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
I'm writing a movie myself, and ChatGPT does not like me, or Claude. So I've been downloading local LLMs. I've been using a lot of Olama.
Yeah.
And playing around with N8N. Have you guys thought about the legal ramifications of using AI to make code and where it's pulling code, sample code from?
In my experience, when you act as a developer of sorts, or really it's like a producer, you describe what you want the code to do. And then the large language model or the agentic tool or however your workflow is, it writes the code. It's not like a diffusion model that has the training data set that the visual models do. It's very different. It does its best to render the code as you describe it. And then, of course, if you really want to take that process, you bring it into a terminal and you test it and you iterate, and it's really, you're the author of that process.
Like, I took some Blender code into Claude, and I told it to scrub it, so there was,
Oh, you
and
took
it did
Blender code.
So
That's
I was
different.
just wondering, like, could I sell this? Is this legal? I made it unique, but Claude made it unique.
What does scrub it mean?
I would talk to Dahlia.
Well,
I told it to make sure I wasn't plagiarizing any code. So
does GPT understand what scrub means? That's
Claude.
interesting. I'm sorry, that's what I meant, Claude. Okay, well, I guess I gave this answer last time too, is replace the whatever AI tool you're using and pretend it's Claude a human and not Claude the AI model. And if you said, Claude, will you code for me whatever it is? And Claude said, okay. Well, you would say, Claude, are you going to write it from scratch? Are you going to use open source? Or are you going to go copy it from somewhere? So that question is the same when you're asking the AI tool to create something for you. And that's the crux of a lot of litigation, whether it's from software developers or authors or Getty Images. The question, and courts are deciding differently based on the use, is did it just get inspired by? Did it consume the code just as if it was a developer, study it, and then output its own language, its own version? Or did it take the code wholesale, repackage it, and produce it to you? So if that's the case, that comes with risks.
I want to do that last one you just said.
So I mean that's why there's now new models where it's like you use this. It only takes the things you give it and builds on your own contracts that you've used or your own photos. But if you're in the commercial business and you're creating it for other people or for clients, I think it's important to have in your master services agreement, I will use AI. Are you comfortable with it for this, and this purpose? You will be liable, not me, or whatever, whoever, however that shakes out.
We do a lot of work for advertising agencies, and that's something we have seen a lot, that we have our own contract for if you want to rent a studio. Most of the advertising agencies now, their contracts keep getting longer and longer and longer, as more and more issues come up. But we're definitely starting to see a lot of clauses in there, either forbidding or disclosing that you used AI. It's definitely something that you should definitely look into your client contracts, whether it's your own contract or the agency. But most likely there's stuff in there about it.
That's great.
Hi, my name's Megan. I'm a commercial photographer. This is kind of along the same veins as a visual artist. I'd love to hear thoughts on using AI ethically, as we know a lot of these programs are scraping the internet and they're learning based on other artists' work, and there's not really many ways for people to, prevent these AI models from using their own work to train them. So, yeah, just maybe, some thoughts on
We probably all have slightly different answers. I say
Right.
we go down the line on it because of different backgrounds.
Interesting.
I think we should.
Like you were saying before about like disclosing when you're using AI, that's been my typical practice. If I'm using a piece of AI in my fine art process, I want to make it very clear because artistic integrity, like once you lose that, it's gone. So when I've been using AI, I either make it very, very obvious or I use it as part of my efficiency, productivity, all of that kind of stuff. When it comes to the scraping of other people's work and including that, I've always been, I guess you can call it pride or ego. I've never really wanted to use other people's work. I find it very hard to even pick a music track to go with the videos that I do because I'm just like, I didn't do that. But at a certain point, you realize that what got you here isn't what's going to take you there. So you have to bring other collaborators on, and you have to do so in an ethical way. So when I'm using AI, when it comes to like my photos and stuff, I will typically, and maybe a piece that might play on the background, I might use like one of my photos at the beginning and then create another end frame with my other photo, and there's no inclusion of anyone else's work there. So I think as long as we're being transparent about the ingredients we're using when we're making these recipes, I think that's my particular personal AI practice, and I think everyone needs to work out what their level of comfort is because I don't want anyone coming up to me later on and saying, that's my work. I want to show when I'm collaborating, I want to show when it's all me, so that's my view.
What's your take on it?
Ethical, I mean, that's the lawyer doesn't answer ethical questions. It's like, can I get you out of trouble or not?
Yeah.
So I'll defer to the panelists.
Right. Fair enough.
Great answer.
Yeah. I've kind of have done like a sort of a 360, growing up in the film business around artists, people, photographers and DPs and things like that. I obviously have a huge appreciation for what they do and believe strongly that they should be compensated for it. But as time progressed, I kind of lump it into sort of two categories. I do a lot of research. Given a technical guy, I'm doing a lot of research. I have no problems using AI for that because I'm not really creating anything. I'm just trying to learn about something. But then in the film business, a lot of times I have to create presentation, I have to create a deck, and things like that. And a lot of it has to do with whether I'm making money on it or not, right? If I'm doing a pitch deck and we don't get the amount of time we used to for doing a pitch deck, I'm sure everybody can relate to that. It's about conveying what's in my head, and I'm not saying I'm going to create this image, right? It's a style deck. This is what the lighting could be. This is how we're going to do certain things. But on my programming side, when I'm creating software, I'm very aware of using those tools. And part of it is, for me, I see it as more of a learning tool, meaning that I'm not able to, it's kind of a career suicide to cut and paste from some code from ChatGPT into it because I build mission critical apps that are latency tolerant and have multiple levels of redundancy. I find most of the code that you get from it doesn't handle exceptions, it doesn't do memory management correctly, all these things, and that's just the field I'm in where failure is just, there's no tolerance of it. That's not to say it's bad, it's just for me it doesn't work. But if you're trying to learn something, that helping hand of think about it this way. So it's one of those things I still struggle with, that sort of both sides of it, because I think I can argue it equally, for or against it.
I've built a career off of supporting photographers. I have sacrificed personally to benefit them and their businesses throughout my entire career. When this first started happening, I was really confused about how I felt about it. What are we doing with this thing now, right? And what really bothered me was that I knew from reading and research and Liz that some of these tools had been trained on the work of artists without those artists' permission. And to me, that was enough that I would take a stand against it. But I started using it. And I did so to learn about how to use it. And of course, that turned into me falling madly in love with it. but I can't even use it now without going back to what might be the repercussions. You know, in anything, it's a question of values. There are tools out there that one can use that have been trained ethically, in a sense, and you can make a stand by using those tools only, being completely transparent about the work you create in AI and putting it out there that that's how the work you have made was made. Yeah. When I'm teaching my students, you know, I have to be a role model in a sense. And my students are all up-and-coming photographers. So I can scratch my head and debate it, but it has been a struggle for me. And I have good days and bad days around this, I really do. And like everybody here, I'm just waiting to find out, and at the same time, making sure the steps that I personally take don't go against what I believe in.
I'll make a lawyer observation here, is that in the law, it's a question of inspiration or infringement. And so just because your art is looked at doesn't mean it was infringed. I can see the Mona Lisa or look at this robot and be like, that's a really cool idea. I want to put a robot in a field, and I don't know where we are, but you know, and so that's allowed, and we want to inspire creativity. The ethical question is, do I have to ask permission to look at this thing? And increasingly, we have a couple cases saying, no, if it's just the tool is just looking and then creating new, that's different from the New York Times case where it's looking and then spitting out the exact content that was in the New York Times article. So I think the ethics of it depends on, again, the use case.
There's no simple answer at all. I mean, I think we all wrestle with this. I would never be dismissive in this answer to anyone. My personal brand is radical transparency. So when I am working with someone, whether I'm doing my own work, I always disclose under the moniker not Liz AI. I disclose that the work is AI created. If I'm working with a client, that transparency is in, you get all my prompts, you get everything I make, I turn it all over, I document prompts. The diffusion models, different from large language models, are not creating collages. So we have a little agency in the way we work with them and how we prompt. If I choose to prompt for somebody's IP, I can create something that infringes on their IP. So this is another reason why all my prompts belong to whomever I partner with.
I mean, if I prompt, make a Will Smith-like character, as I did for the first video you guys saw, that's intent to use someone's likeness. You know, like would put me in trouble, right? You know, the rest of it is, like they all said, kind of a gray area, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable making slides for a presentation but I wouldn't necessarily call this my art, you know. And then getting back to that kind of mechanical looking, like that's where it becomes really weird for me. Even the main creative company, I don't want to say the name, I guess, but will tout themselves as like ethical AI, right? But anyone that submitted their stock photography or video or images, you know, a decade ago, never could have anticipated
the one thing that
looking, you know.
That really helped me make a jump was the realization that the world is constantly changing, right? And whatever you believe, I guarantee every one of your competitors is using this technology, right? Your clients are probably using this technology. So I look at it as embrace it. Ethically, meaning that, you know, be responsible, but learn it. And a lot of these things are going to work themselves out over time as the laws catch up and things like that. I think it's a bad career move to be like, oh, I'm totally against this, but by the time the laws change where it's totally fine, your career is toast at that point, right? It's like, learn it, how to use it, you know, be responsible with it. I think that's
We've
good
seen
approach.
this before, right? We've seen, in the last presentation I gave about this, we've seen, I don't want to use digital, that's not photography. We've seen,
Yeah.
like, oh, raw, like, I don't want to use Lightroom, that's not really captured in camera. Or, we've seen all this happen before. It's just a different app, it's just a different software before that. It's just a different
Yeah.
It's
CD-ROM.
interesting you say about not wanting to use AI, because Procreate came out very officially saying they were not going to be using AI. And I just think that given how fluid the industry is at the moment, I don't know if that was the smartest move for them to say that.
Yeah. I think from a business standpoint, drawing a hard line in the sand is a very risky thing. That to me, I just think everybody should be learning about it, how to use it.
Well, where are you drawing that line? If you're saying I'm not using AI for our project, I'm sure you sent some emails that got checked with AI, or like whatever. So like, where do you start measuring that?
AI is everywhere. It's broad. It's complex. And I think that there is so much noise and not as much signal as probably we all would like. And to me, I think that you have to really get with, what do you personally value? What are your values? What are your goals? And you have to make your own decisions. I don't believe in persuasion.
Yeah, I mean, personally as a creator, like I value really talented people and connection. And I love working with crews. That was one of the reasons why I went freelance, is because I just really like being on a set with people and being the reason that everyone there gets to do their passion, gets to do the thing they're good at. And I made this in a room, with a big computer, just kind of sitting by myself. That was not delightful, It was fun. I chuckled a little bit, but like, that's not why I do this, That's not why I do what I love doing. So I think you can make choices, values based on that stuff as well.
I have a question for the panel. And
Yeah.
what are the tools? You guys all use different creative tools. Are there ones that are better than others? What's the greatest AI tool that you're all using right now?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Well, we'll start with you.
I'll answer the AI question in a little bit, but I did come across a tool just recently which I think everyone should be aware of, and it's called The Things AI Can Do Today. So it's a website that just lets you know what the capabilities are.
Write that down, Marie and Brandon.
So rather than you trying to struggle to work out, can AI help me to fix my diet, or can AI help me to turn this old picture of my grandmother and bring it to life? There's this up-to-date website that will basically...
What's it called? The Things AI Can Do?
The Things that AI Can Do Today.
Today.com.
That might be the best tip of the night right there.
Yeah.
Call the Webbies. I think they've got a hot one,
Yeah. I use a lot of different ones. I'm kind of jumping around. Obviously, I'm the technology guy, so like I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think it's this singular AI thing, and it's not. It couldn't be further from the truth. There are hundreds to thousands of different models. Most people think of AI that is trained on others people's data, but some of the most interesting work are people who are building their own models on their own data. AI is not exactly doing financially well, like people aren't paying for it, right? Most of the companies, they're spending more money than they're receiving because they're trying to build this as a product. The companies that are doing extremely well are companies where, the accounting partners needs to go through the last 25 years of accounting data and figure out norms, right? Where they suck all your data into a model and then help you ask the model about your data. There's and so that's a big part of the field that is for me very interesting. So we kind of have to understand the difference.
I will also say, I get a lot of clients who are like, oh, should I sign this contract for this AI tool? And I know just enough.
Yeah.
I'm not a techie. And I'll be like, this is just ChatGPT that they're charging you $250 instead of $20 for. Yeah. And this was the case when I used to do, Facebook, right? Facebook was new. They're like, they're charging me $5,000 to set up my Facebook account. And I'd be like, that is a 4-second task. You don't, so I think there's a lot of people taking advantage of those that maybe aren't aware of what the tools really are.
People will pay for convenience, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lack of accountability that comes if you're saying, okay, I'll pay you to do it, you just don't have to worry about it. So it's, yeah.
What tools do you use?
Tools. For me, it's what I need in the moment, right? So depending on what I'm making, if I get frustrated and I don't have a boatload of patience, anybody will say, my boss will tell you. But what I'll do is I'll literally just start looking up, what AI tool can do this or this or this. So depending on what I'm creating, changes a bit. But the tools that I have leaned into from the beginning are still tools that I tend to go back to often, and they include Midjourney and 11 Labs, Luma, Dream Machine, Runway. These are tools that I use to create the aspects of whatever I'm creating. Typically, it's a motion piece. And I find that some of the tools are better for some things than others. It's true, and that part is so fascinating to me, but it does seem that that is the case.
Yeah, all the same tools, the Adobe stack, Manus agentically, large language models, Claude, Chat, Perplexity because it gives you links for things like higher fidelity and character consistency, Higgs field, the Flux. The Flux models are all great for adding text or having strong fidelity. I mean, for me, it's about fidelity to ideas, and you have to have kind of broad facility in a tech stack, especially because a lot of clients have relationships with different technologies, or they have exclusions with different technologies. They don't want you to use them. So it's always about constrain a job, define the technology, be transparent about it, make sure everyone agrees to the tech stack that's being used. And then it's a prototyping phase, because sometimes you don't know until you get into it how strong the fidelity to the idea will be. So you do a prototyping phase, and then you decide what pieces are going to go into more of a traditional model or can be refined using AI.
I'm sure a lot of you just heard a bunch of words that don't mean anything to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I think.
Come on,
no,
man.
I mean, big deal, whatever. They're all. It's not your fault. Kumquat AI does whatever. But like all these AI models, they have all these names, and some of them are rappers, and it's really complicated. And they do that on purpose. So like, not like rappers, but like they wrap a product around an AI model.
All right, Tupac.
So anyway, but the thing that I kind of let be my guiding light is what do I want to do? If you're using Photoshop, right? Probably, I don't know if there's any power users in here, but every single one of you uses Photoshop a little bit differently. And probably every single one of you uses about 10% of it at most, right? So like, what do you want to do? What might be good at it? Maybe ask ChatGPT what AIs are good at it, and then explore and experiment from there. You'll run into a lot of constraints pretty quickly.
While we're on the topic of tools, is there any way to show the work that we gave you of ours?
Oh, it's been playing the whole time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We have a question over there, Ross.
Yes. In the back.
I'll just say one thing and then let's get to your question. One of the, I will draw a comparison with AI and this conversation we just had and virtual production. The language can be sort of intimidating, right? But if you think about photographers, like photographers have their own language, right? Every industry, even though a lot of all these different models, it sounds Greek and you're like, oh my God, I can't figure that out. You can. Like when you think about all the changes we've seen, in the last 20 years from going to film to digital cameras to computers to, all these different things. In the end, you start out small and you build. And so I've met so many people that are like, it just sounds so complicated. And I'm like, yeah, but you can do like time-lapse exposures and calculate it in your head. Like that's complicated, right? It's really just point of view and perspective where you start small and build, which is how we all kind of got here in the first place.
So that was a great lead in, Todd.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gary. I speak on AI and technologies, and Todd and Scott have both spoke for me at NAB. The one thing that people aren't talking about here that Todd was alluding to is all the tools that we already use every single day that are embedded in the devices we have and the applications we use that do this already. And we're not talking about, and we don't call them AI, but they're machine learning. It's autocorrect on your phone. It's mapping software in Google Maps, and it's Siri, it's Alexa, it's Google Play. It's all of these things are algorithmic tools that we are currently using in our lifestyles that are built on the same models that we're talking about for imagery. So remember this as you go on. Autocorrect built into your phone is just the same algorithm trying to teach you how to do things, and it's taking over for you and just correcting your own mistakes. That's been doing that for a while now. We've all had those on our phones for 10 years. And that's the same kind of machine learning. If you're afraid of it, stop thinking of it as artificial intelligence, because it's not. It's augmented intelligence. We're teaching the machines how to do this through images, through words, through how we promote, through how we correct, through how we direct the content. We are constantly building these algorithms and making our lives better. But we use these tools every single day. The turn signal in your car, the sensors on the road, we're surrounded by this technology, and we think that it's new in the image department, and it's not. And I just wanted to bring that point.
Yep.
All right, that's a good point, Gary. How many people are actually using AI in the audience at some level or degree? How many of them are for creative things? And then how many people are using it just for day-to-day clerical tasks, things like that? So
Who's never used
like
AI?
half, maybe.
Yeah.
Who's never used AI? Safe space. Okay.
Although, if you use Google, you use AI, because like a lot of people realize like most of your searches now are all
about it.
AI.
Actually, I can talk about privacy for a second.
Yes. And then
That
we'll
was
get to you.
just one of these cases, I think it's the New York Times one. They've asked OpenAI to produce all of the prompts that all of us are putting into ChatGPT. And it's a reminder that just like, when you're typing searches into Google and you hear about the hot car case and like the bad guy was like how to make a bomb, that's actually extending now to what you're inputting. So it's not just copyright issues, if we're going back to that, it's also like what are you inputting there that you are essentially sharing with the database. And so just a little extra, I don't know, we talked about privacy yet, but I think that's one of the other things is, do be mindful of what you are asking it to do for you. I saw in that sample policy up there, which I would like to highlight, it's good that your AI policy has it, was it replace names of clients, replace scenarios if you're using it for something like that. Be conscious of the fact that emails aren't private. I'm a litigator too, right? Litigator means I get to subpoena and ask for things in a case where your company might now be subpoenaed for all prompts related to this client, and you may be under a duty if you don't have a policy where you've deleted them or whatever, which you, by the way, can't delete the prompts, as far as I'm aware. So something to think about as you're asking it your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah, I'm really glad you raised that. I talk to my friends a lot of the time, because I'm the annoying guy in the group who will talk about AI the most. So I'm often reminding them to have an AI practice. And what I'm talking about is being mindful about the stuff that you're uploading. So if you're comfortable putting your Uber receipts for tax purposes into ChatGPT, cool. But there's certain things you probably don't want to do. And even Sam Altman said recently, he was surprised at how many people, Sam Altman's a CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT. He was surprised at how many people were using it for therapy and surprised at how many people were putting their personal information into ChatGPT. And one of the things that came out around the same time is if you're ever using the ChatGPT function where you send share from within the app, that stuff actually is Googleable. So you could that stuff, if you're putting stuff out there that's private onto ChatGPT, if you're doing any therapy type stuff on there, and you've sent that to someone else through the search function within the program, it's coming up in search results. So I just want you to be mindful of what you're doing.
There's no privilege. If you have a legal question or a medical question, there's no attorney-client or therapy therapist, doctor privilege when you're typing those types of things.
Yeah, just building on having an AI practice. One of the things that me and some of my friends discuss is you asked me before about what tools I use. I use ChatGPT quite a lot, but I like to double check everything I do with ChatGPT. Not everything, a number of things. By running it by Claude, because Claude will pick up stuff that ChatGPT won't, and vice versa. So not just assuming everything you get from this is gospel. I'm probably sure that 50% of the room have had that issue where you say to ChatGPT, please, no more M dashes, and it just repeatedly puts this thing in. So these things, they're not perfect tools, they're constantly learning, but this is the worst it's ever gonna be. It's just gonna keep going. So if you're not gonna use AI, even though you probably already are, just be mindful about how you're using it and why you're not using it.
A lot of tools in Photoshop or other tools that you're using sometimes aren't branded as AI. Sometimes they use like neural filters, other things. And you have to enter things into photo competitions. Even you have to do the Copyright Office. You have to tell people kind of how much of your product is used AI to create whatever your thing you're trying to copyright. That creates a lot of issues. I think the question is, what does one to do?
I don't know what one does, to be honest, because even the starting point, like the gentleman over there, the very passionate gentleman, was saying about how there's so much of our practices, got AI in it. Like a smartphone picture is computational photography. So it's just pressing the shutter, you're already using AI there anyway. So even before you get to the edit, your smartphone has already determined that this is going to be a better photo than what you would have taken by yourself. So I don't know where you draw the line.
You draw the line bringing it back to your friend Claude, not the AI Claude. I mean, if you are taking the photo, as simple as the act of pressing the shutter might be, you took the image. And to the extent tools are being used to augment, make it better, change it, then it's probably yours, because the foundation of that work is yours. Compared to Midjourney or ChatGPT, create a picture of, a panda eating spaghetti with eyeballs. Right. That is a prompt versus me drawing. Just like if you're an ad agency, a client will say, hey, ad agency, I have a vision, I have an idea, and then you need a contract to make sure that when the idea is executed or reduced to a tangible medium, that you will own it. So there are a lot of, there's what was it, I think, Thaler v. Perlmutter and Allen v. Perlmutter are the two cases you want to ask ChatGPT about tonight. Thaler said it was a Midjourney piece, and he when he tried to get the copyright, wrote down AI. And they're like, well, AI is not a human, can't own it. And then the Allen case is I put 682 prompts to get the image. So it was a lot of human involvement, even though I wasn't the one drawing the picture. And there's been no ruling. The Copyright Office says it's a factual question. Every case is going to inspect and examine the degree to which the human contributed content versus the machine, AI, created the content.
What's you probably know this better than I, the Cashinova case, where it says you cannot copyright something that you've made using AI?
Yes, and the Copyright Office issued its own circular that kind of decreed this is the case, and they compare it to the monkey selfie case, if you guys know the monkey selfie case.
Talk about the monkey selfie last
night. You should put, for my slides next time, please.
Yes. Should have brought them, sorry.
Please use the monkey selfie. Which, the monkey selfie case, if you don't know, is the photographer went out into the jungle, I forget all the Amazon, wherever it was, and found, put cameras in front of these monkeys. They picked up the cameras, and the monkeys took some really good selfies. And he went to try to monetize copyright, all the effort. He went out there, he staged it, he had the idea, he found the monkeys, he befriended the monkeys, he gave the monkeys the camera. But the camera was picked up and the shutter was pressed by the monkey, and the courts ruled the monkey took the photo. The person who takes the photo, the person who takes the photo owns the copyright. But a monkey is not a person. Therefore, the monkey cannot own the copyright. Therefore, the monkey photos are open and public domain for all to use.
Unfair.
The monkey was represented by the the PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
Yeah.
And it went up on appeal, and I think they settled it ultimately. But if you want to Google while it's up there, you guys should look up the monkey case.
There's a group called the Content Authenticity Initiative, if you don't know about them, and the person who developed it came through Adobe, and I believe is still there. And it's all about ensuring the provenance of the photography, showing that a human being took the photograph, and they're trying to embed credentials in cameras. And I think they have a partnership with Leica, potentially. I can't remember. Yeah, is that correct? So that's a good group to know about.
Questions? Yes.
Generating, sorry, thank you. Generating, wow. Generating prompts on AI uses like gallons and gallons of water, and I was just wondering how accurate some of these posts I've seen are, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, AI is not green by any way. The amount of energy, some of the new data centers that are built, they're building their own nuclear power plant because the data center pulls all of the power from a nuclear power plant. There was when AI first started out, there was a sort of in the tech scene, there was a thing about like, there's no reason to be friendly or nice or say thank you. You're just hurting the environment. But a lot of us, I was raised to say thank you and please and all these things. And they're saying, it doesn't care, right? And all of that additional stuff, when it sends back, costs money. It costs, specifically electricity, which obviously is tough, meaning that there's really no need to befriend your chat GPT unless that's your goal. But I mean, it's like whether you say thank you or not, there is an implication to that. It takes a lot of power to do this stuff.
There's some questions about the thank you and how much of an implication that has, but the data centers are horrifying. It's very real. It's being rolled out too quickly and too broadly. But a lot of tech companies are trying to create smaller data sets so that the overall implications are going to be, I don't want to say environmentally friendly, maybe less
but
environmentally
step
devastating.
in the right direction,
yeah, step in the right direction. I mean, it sounds like a throwaway answer to say, I hope that AI will solve the problem of environmental impact of AI, but honestly, that is the hope.
Yeah.
There's litigation in this area too. Various groups are, I think Elon Musk is the target of an environmental lawsuit right now. So just like everything else, we're going to see legislation around the deep fakes and around the practices that impact the environment.
But I think that's part of the needle we have to thread too. I mean, if they're going to build data centers, it can impact politicians' constituents, right?
Yeah.
Like it's estimated that our electric bills in Illinois are going to go up 40% this year.
I heard 8.
I've heard many things. What is truth in this era, right? They're going to go up though, and I don't think
But
there's
it's going to be a utility, and just as important as your electric bill will be your ChatGPT bill, because how will you survive without the Google or the ChatGPT?
Yeah.
So I think it's a fee that we will pay.
Yeah.
We will,
We won't feel it immediately, but I think it's something.
And I have a pretty
We'll accept. It's
unpopular
another bill.
stance on that. Like I kind of like nuclear. I know that's not in vogue right now, but there's a lot of technologies that have gone by the wayside that will take some of that nuclear waste and keep using it. So I think it will it'll create a need, and then.
I mean, as a lawyer, I think it's really interesting. We have laws around copyright, for example, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and the Communications Decency Act. These are acts that were enacted in the 90s, but they were intended to promote technology, meaning we don't want to hold a Facebook, back when I started, now it's TikTok. We don't want to hold a TikTok liable for the actions of its users because that's going to stifle the expansion of that technology. If I'm afraid I'm going to get sued for whatever everyone else is going to do, we're not going to get the very important tool that is TikTok in our lives. So I think there is this balance where we start over-regulating and then you hinder the technological advancements that might come with some bad stuff. So that is, it's kind of as a society, what are we willing to accept? What is the degree to which bad things can happen? But it's really nice that, I get these other benefits at the same time. Mm-hmm. Play that game.
Yeah, I think it's a great question that you asked as well, because not this year, but last year's TEDx Chicago, there's a talk that specifically deals with the environmental impact. So if they have them recorded anywhere, it might be worth checking that out.
Yeah, Russell in the back.
Hi. I want to come back to the discussion of creative practice that I think touches a lot of people here in the room. When I was a young designer, I worked on a book that had 10 different other designers contributing all work. And it was clear to me as I was assembling the different chapters together, which ones used Illustrator, which ones used Quark Express at that time, which ones used Photoshop, because the tools, by learning the tools train us back. They also give new opportunities, and I feel like that's something with digital photography where raw capture and what you can capture actually changed, and it opened up a whole world of shooting low light photography and creating images that actually look good and they're usable and they're amazing. How does this proliferation of different AI-oriented technologies that fit into the creative toolkit change the way each of you there up on the panel think about your creative process, the horizons it opens, and what you'll pass on to the younger people you mentor?
Oh,
Sorry, it's a long question.
what a good question. That's a hard question.
I kind of go back to tentpole things in my career. Like, I grew up, I'm very young. I grew up, we came up in the digital transition, right? So like when I went to college, there were no inkjet printers that worked worth a damn. So I had to learn how to do color darkroom process, black and white darkroom process. I had to do all that stuff by hand. And I also realized that I was pretty terrible at it, but I still love photography. And then digital came along, and I had the foundation from taking 7.5 hours to do my first color print. Like my color acuity is really good because my TA wouldn't let me give up on that. There's a lot of things that people don't learn today as well because they only had Photoshop, right? You don't have to have as many consequences for your things, but they learn in a different way. So I think it's just an evolution. I think there's a lot of fear about people not being able to have entry-level jobs, right, in many different fields. But I think when something augments what you can do or changes what you can do, you have to learn a whole set of skills and tools, So you have to learn about DPI, you have to learn about cropping. So I think it's just going to change things.
Yeah, it's just all so new, So it's like I don't have the perspective yet. I mean, for me, if I have an idea, there are enough tools that I have facility with that I can start to shape the idea. It's about trying to find fidelity using the tools to the idea. But it's a very different kind of craft. I almost hesitate to say that, but it is that. And I think it's about ideas, and it's about taking the time to craft the ideas, whatever your opinion is of AI tools. It is a crafting process.
Yeah, I was a professional dancer. I was a horrible dancer, but I was a professional dancer. And I went to college for dance, and my teachers told me, and we all knew I was a horrible dancer. And they pushed me into choreography, and that's where I sort of everything exploded. I absolutely loved it, and that's what I ended up focusing on. And I'm a horrible photographer, but I have all these visions. Great, now I'm crazy. I have all these visions in my head.
We like it.
Not crazy.
I have these stories, I have to tell these stories. Before AI, I was writing them down in a notebook, because I wasn't gonna be able to go out with a camera and shoot them. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get them out of me. And then Midjourney, all of a sudden it was like somebody pulled the plug and everything's just turned into like this incredible way for me to express myself. I'm really grateful for it. But as far as responsibility to the people that I mentor, this is one of the first times I've ever used a tool in making art that has ethical implications, legal implications. And that, again, is something that I do struggle with, but I don't struggle in the dark. I struggle and I show up in the light. I learn as much as I can about it, and I want to be able to do this in a way that I can pass it on the tool with all the stuff that comes with it, because anybody else out there who can't dance, and wants to be a dancer, thank God, there are things out there that can assist with creativity in all its forms. That's kind of how I see it.
For me, I feel like everybody has their own superpower. One of mine is the ability to change my mind, which I do a lot. I'm, opinionated until you see something that changes your mind. And so, I love this time, these changes, because it provides me tons and tons of options. As you get older, you think back of music that maybe when you first heard it, you didn't like it, and before you know, you're humming the song, right? I like the exposure to all the different things, and to me, I find that very optimistic, and I think that's something that is only going to help, generations to come.
I'm not the artist, so.
I hope this answers your question, Russell. So for me, my journey, like I said before, I was in law, and then I became a photographer, and I was able to become a photographer because of social media. And I think social media is kind of part and parcel of the journey of where we've got to with AI right now, in the fact that it's a tool that often gets a bad rap, but it can be used. A tool could be used in a good way. You could take a hammer, you could use it to kill someone, you could use a hammer to build a house. For me, social media democratized creativity. I wasn't a photographer before. I then had a platform where I could share my photography, get instant feedback, get instant inspiration, and so I was able to do that. I feel very similarly about AI. I feel that it's going to democratize creativity in a way that I was at one level before I became a photographer. Now I'm a more fully rounded creative, and I'm able to design a booklet, design clothes, come up with jewelry. There's like this top I'm wearing right now is I used AI to kind of create the design, and I worked with a friend to bring that together. So all of the extra practice around how am I going to market this? Who's my target demographic? Should I set up a website? Should I just do a grassroots thing? All of that I was able to do because AI was able to help me. So I think for the people who are creative, they were always going to be creative, whether AI was here or not. And for those who had excuses before, I think the door's been opened. I think now, even myself, sometimes I'm like, man, I really should have put that project into process. So I think we're at a very interesting turning point where before you may have had an excuse, but now the sky's the limit.
A few more questions?
I have a question real quick. This is maybe even, I'm going to specifically direct it to Beth and wonder, Ross, if you could put up her images again,
sure.
if that's possible. I'm just really curious, I mean, any artist too, but because your images, you have a nice spread of 6 images. How many prompts did it take for you to get to your final image? Would you share any of the secret behind the sauce, how you kind of get there? The technicalities of it?
Well, I just hit my I got my Mid-Journey congratulated me on my over 40,000 generations.
Wow.
Wow.
And for any one of my images, it takes me, a couple of hours, hundreds before I know which one is done.
For me, I do as many as it takes to move on. And it's not 40,000.
I mean, I know when it's done. I know when it's done. I'm an editor, curator, as well as an agent. And that's part of an obsession of mine. I love curating work. I love editing work for people, telling a story using their own work. I know when the image is done, but for any one of my images, there's hundreds of renditions before, I'm sure.
Are there good free or cheap versions for dabblers like that are not artists like me when I'm trying to make an invite? Because the ChatGPT ones and Canva ones are terrible. Are there any that you recommend that are not the one on steroids?
Recommend in terms of
AI tools.
Yeah.
That are accessible to someone who's not a professional, who will just,
There are image generation tools that I find to be not really have the girth that Midjourney has. Like Midjourney for me has been an incredible creative outlet. With it comes the ethical questions that you have to toy with in your own mind. There are image generation tools that were trained on, ethically trained, so you don't have to feel quite so, but I don't find them to be as creative. I went through this phase recently over the summer where I was not going to use Midjourney and went through one of those where it's like horrible. I can't believe I even fell for this. That didn't last. It was like a week later, I'm like on the phone making a picture. And by the way, when I make these, I am literally, not exaggerating, I am literally laying on my couch with my phone. I don't use Photoshop. I don't use a computer. I don't use a desktop. I make all of these with my phone. Literally use my finger to inpaint, because inpainting is something you can do in Midjourney. I'm eating dots because I have an addiction to chewy candy, and I'm making and it's every day. I have to make one every day, So on my Instagram feed, it's like, well, I didn't make a Midjourney, so I can't go to bed. It's really incredible. I mean, look what this thing is allowing me to do. Mm-hmm. This is an industrial revolution. We're living through it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I came here earlier today for the demo. This man, I nearly peed my pants when I saw what they were up to in this space. I'm so excited to be here for this, So yes to it all, but I don't know if I answered your question. I got excited again. What was your question?
When I've used Midjourney, I kind of go back and forth, and I need to practice more and take probably some lessons and stuff. But I just really, even this image with the horse, how do you get from a prompt to this image? And how many iterations?
Well, the fact that when you were saying how many prompts to get there, if that's not the work of an artist, right? When the ethical issue always comes back, it's always the artistic abilities and the technical abilities to build those prompts. This is why prompt engineering is, the next big thing. But, not everybody can do that, right? And so, when people say, oh, it's stealing from other people, I'm like, I can't create these images in AI, right? It's a talent. And, to me, these are your images in that context.
You can see that I stuck in 1950, and I've watched a lot of movies. I mean, you can see where I'm going to eat kale, These are the things that I put into my prompts. So it's taking kind of everyday life stuff and turning it into something that's more like a pinup girl-esque era. And then also my grandfather collected old war propaganda posters and old vintage stamps. He was from Cuba, and he always had these amazing stamps. I look to them for inspiration now. All of that. So just saying that to Midjourney and just kind of having this duet, no, do this, no, that looks like that, no, that's not what I said. So it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for quite some time before I'm able to look at something and go, gosh, that is beautiful.
But you need to have good taste and technique to be able to pull this off.
Yeah.
This doesn't just come together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, isn't art bending constraints to fill a vision? I think it's very succinctly what you're doing.
I mean, I wanted
And
to
not
make these
poetically,
women.
but, yeah.
I just had to. Right? Look at their hair.
Images like these are clients, like the clients that most of us want or looking for, or clients with money. Are they accepting this as maybe in terms of legal or just in terms of general creative, this image of the pinup girl, like, could that be in, like, would...
I can't
right?
copyright any of these. I don't own any of this.
Right, but regardless of who owns it, like,
Okay.
forget that. Like, I mean, well, I mean, maybe we can't forget that, but like, are clients biting on this as like, hey, we could go with this instead of a traditional image with our actual product? Like, is there too many legal ramifications for that to be real, or would a client really bite on this? Like, would an egg company use this for their...
Dali says yes.
If it's a client with money, you answered your question.
I mean...
They wouldn't do this. It's not
wouldn't.
worth the legal risk.
It's a, you know, to me, it's like, would Apple, one of the largest companies in the world, contract this art? Probably not, right? Because they have way too much to lose and are a big target, right? But, you know, would Fallon or Wyden pitch this to a smaller client and like an Altoids, like a much smaller company? Absolutely. You know, we see advertising agencies are definitely adopting new techniques.
Or there's, I follow an ad column, and there's some companies that are like, I think Coca-Cola did an entire AI ad.
Yeah,
so if they're saying it's an AI ad and they're upfront about it, whereas you know they're not trying to be cute about it, then I think yes, they'll pay for it. But
That AI ad was trained on like 30 years of the creative they paid for. Yeah, but it was, you know, it was kind of a pale reflection of what that was, and there's some weird implications in that too, because there were people of color that they could have paid, instead they AI generated them. So it's like, are you really supporting diversity if you're not paying real people to be in your ad? And then it wasn't that good.
ethical stuff again.
Good to
Okay,
begin
let's
with.
talk about the legal stuff. Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, what I'm talking about legal, and there is an entire agency, photographers can talk to me, that where they are, I won't use the word trolls, but I'm going to use the word trolls, where they are finding little snapshots of images used on small businesses' websites. And I can name a few of the law firms that are doing this. And small businesses are now getting targeted, you know, in little microcuts of like $3,000, $2,000, $1,000 settlements. So I don't know what the next stage is as the technology advances, if there's a way to do those reverse images for even anything that's AI generated that looks like it's a derivative of your image, and now everyone's kind of afraid of using something that came from somewhere they weren't sure of.
The AI patent trolls. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Mary Hennebree, I'm a photographer. These images that you created, are the faces of people that you know?
No. They're
So
not.
you're not able to use these in any commercial?
No, I don't own them. I can sell them if someone is willing to license them. I have the legal ability to license them, even under an umbrella of advertising. I can license them,
So
but I don't own them.
The people, the actual faces, they don't exist?
I see what you're asking. These faces were all created by my imagination, using the tool of AI to generate them. So these people have never existed. Their likenesses have never existed.
I see.
Yeah.
They're aggregates of training data.
Interesting. So if you were to photograph a real person's face, you need a model release, and then you could sell that image. I assume that you could create an image.
With a very special contract, a very transparent contract, you can take an image of a human being, and with everyone agreeing that you're going to move forward with this, you can then create iterative images based on that using various tools.
Okay.
There are several tools that do it.
So you could use a model from an agency.
You can also, like, you contract for one day and then say, we don't need you for 20 days. We'll just take this and we'll make you say 700 different things without you having to actually take it takes.
That's where transparency is really, really important.
Well,
There's a few modeling agencies doing
you would have to negotiate that with.
Correct.
Or you don't pay for talent at all.
Yeah.
I think there was some car commercial
Yeah.
that this too. What was do you remember the?
I don't remember which one, but in the the agent side of the business, talent agencies, especially in Hollywood films, a lot of the big companies like Disney They want to, whether you're an extra or anything, they want to have the ability to, scan your body and use your voice after you've wrapped. And it's becoming a really big issue. If you're a Tom Cruise or an A-list actor, you can say no, no, no. But if you're just a day player, you can't say no because there's a million people waiting behind them. So it is definitely something that
We're making up the rules as we go.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to still figure out.
I think James Earl
That's
Jones
it.
has
Yeah.
his voice, and there's some issue right now. I think Fortnite introduced a Darth Vader character into the game, and for those that don't know, James Earl Jones is the voice of Mufasa, Darth Vader, blah, blah, blah. But when you give a legend's voice to Fortnite who don't appreciate the legend that he was, you're going to get people using his voice to say things that are just completely inappropriate. So it's become this kind of weird legal nightmare. And I think it was one of the reasons why the actors' strike went on as long as it did, because people wanted to use these people's voices and likeness in kind of perpetuity. And it's just like, you're going to wipe out a whole industry of people and their livelihoods if you do that.
It's interesting, big companies will also do the exact opposite on the other side of their business. So like obviously for a while, everybody's feeds was filled with, these sort of funny Star Wars out of context things, that was something that Disney, for a long time, including Lucasfilm, went after anybody who did anything with the Star Wars brand. It's arguably, people say it's the second biggest brand in the world next to Coca-Cola. And, Eisner kind of changed his mind with this last season of Andor, that you can make that stuff so easy, and they are now looking at it as like any publicity is good, and they're not going after, which is why you're seeing your feeds filled with stormtroopers.
Which is why I get the calls like, but so many other people are doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got maybe one or two more questions. You've been very patient.
A lot of people use ChatGPT to kind of write their essays or projects that they would do. And now I'm seeing a transition, and especially the creative side of the education is that a lot of people are using AI in the screenwriting or different parts of like the post-production and even creative sides. And I experienced all my other peers kind of didn't like it. There were people who really don't like AI in creativity. There are other people who kind of support and see the vision. My question was, how does a university or a body of education kind of set the bars for AI to kind of just people like me, students like me, explore their creativity through these tools? It's in a way saying that just putting rules in universities of their AI policies, how much is that going to limit the tool that we might use, if that makes sense?
At Drexel University, they allow the professors to make a decision about whether or not they're going to allow for their students to use AI and in what context. They give all of that over to each professor individually in any of the departments. That wasn't always the case when, maybe even just 18 months ago. They were staunchly against it. There was software out that could literally analyze something that was written with ChatGPT and tell the teacher if something was written with ChatGPT, which was at the time against the rules. But now, as everyone is sort of slowly embracing this, which is truly what is happening on every level, they are, again, allowing the university professors to make a decision as to whether or not they'll accept AI-influenced work.
I mean, I teach at Loyola, I teach a law school class for the last, long time. But I think just because ChatGPT wrote it doesn't mean that it's good. So you're grading it on how well you asked ChatGPT to give you the answer. And I think that's the new model. There was a professor that got in trouble because it used ChatGPT to grade the papers. I think the reverse doesn't work. So I think you should teach how to use it. You need to know how to construct a sentence and know how grammar should, learn that 7th, 8th grade grammar and then let it.
It's an age-old issue. I'm old enough to remember when schools started allowing students to have calculators.
Yes.
And, I remember like in 8th grade, the school bought us all calculators because they realized that, when you're in work, you're going to be using a calculator, maybe learn how to use it properly. And it's something I agree with, but I still know how to do it, manual. You know what I mean? It's an age-old question that I don't think is any different.
Yeah, I think schools and institutions need to evolve as to how they administer teaching because, like you said with the calculator, right, you're going to go and use it. So I think one of the things I'd seen online in discussions was letting everyone have access to ChatGPT, and then people come in and they actually discuss what it is that they've learned. Yeah. And this might be an interesting point to raise as well. Do you guys know when you copy and paste from ChatGPT into a document, do you know that ChatGPT has these invisible characters in your text? So when you copy and paste it over, if anyone can put that into some detection software and they can tell whether it's been written by you or not. Did you guys know that? Cool.
There's also a whole suite of products that will scrub that.
They'll scrub it out.
Scrub it.
They seem to know, so I didn't want to. Yeah. I don't know. They've got a smart crowd, so.
If I have a copyright to an image, can I load that into a generative AI with a prompt, and then does the output image fit into that copyright?
Yes, just because AI does not infect your copyright and make it not copyrightable. The reverse is the truth. You can't just tell AI to make you something and then own it. So as long as as a copyright owner, you have a bundle of rights, the right to make copies, distribute, create derivatives, perform, and display. So that would be a derivative. You get the right to make a derivative of your underlying work.
But the flip side of that is, when you post it on ChatGPT, you're putting it in a public forum most usually to do that. So you're actually publishing your photo, and if it's not got copyright specifically on it when you put it in ChatGPT, no one else knows that it's a copyrighted image. And when you load it in there, you're loading it up for everybody to peruse.
And that's why you're not going to use it if you're Apple, because you're subject to a copyright suit from
Apple, Nvidia, Coke, they all have their internal departments doing that. I
think you're going to see evolving digital rights management software. You're going to find additional technology that brands whatever images you're doing so that if it does get uploaded, it'll be trackable. And that's like the Getty Images case. If you're familiar with it, the AI tool literally took Getty Images, and the Getty Images is all convoluted in the corner. And they're saying, you're diluting our brand because you're taking our images, and then Getty Images is all messed up. But at least we know it's a Getty image.
But just to be clear, what Brian is asking about is Midjourney specific. It's taking one of his images, loading it into Midjourney, and then the output would be considered a derivative image.
Of his own image.
Yeah.
But if the output is completely AI, how could it be?
It's not completely AI. It's trained on his image.
Because he used it as,
Derivative.
Yeah.
Derivative work,
To make it really watertight, I would put a large language model on your own PC or Mac, train that model, and then you avoid a lot of the issues. I think, Pete, you had a question.
I think we're actually out of time.
We're close to time. Let's get one more.
My name is Mike. I have a question for each of you, about your personal best practices in this field. And the question is, if you had to use an AI tool that's currently available, or even imagined by you to be available in the future, that you would not use, that you would never use maybe, and why?
Which AI tool would I not use, never use?
Would you not, or maybe even never use, and why?
Oh, it's got to be Grok.
Yeah, same.
It's Grok straight off the bat.
Classically known as the fascist.
We're short on time, agreed.
It started calling itself, so Grok is Elon Musk's AI. I think it's kind of made out of spite because he had a falling out with ChatGPT. And
made out of spite.
It basically has started, actually Grok does have some redeeming qualities because it started calling Elon Musk a racist and all sorts of stuff. So politics aside, I think it went rogue a little while ago and started calling itself a mecha Nazi.
Yeah.
So this is also the program I talked about at the beginning, the application I talked about at the beginning that allows you to take Tom Cruise's image and produce sexual deepfakes. So it's just...
It's the kitchen sink.
Avoid it if you can.
Right, plus
all
they have
bad
spicy mode, which is like
It also has like a sexual
untoward.
It's
pretty.
Imagine Twitter on steroids with all the racism and it's
And not particularly artful either.
Yeah.
So.
grok.
It's the one thing we all agree on.
Now everybody's going to run out of here and sign up. I can just see it. Spicy mode. What were they saying? Spicy mode.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's in cars now too. Holy smokes. All right, well, thank you everybody for coming. I want to thank everyone that helped put this on.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone drive safe and be kind to each other.